Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. We're all here, we're all talking football. Things are kind of getting back to normal after the festivities. The transfer window is open, which means transfer business, but other than that, it's just football all the way. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. The main one, the big one, share the podcast around. If you've got a football fan in your life, send them this podcast. They will almost definitely thank you for it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
Welcome on in, ladies and gents. The timing on that could have been absolutely spectacular. The people joining on video may notice that Mr. Moore is sipping from a large glass of water there, and he was pouring that water just as we set to record. So there may be a little bit on the front end of that, which sounds like someone's having a massive piss. But we won't know until it gets released.
To introduce himself.
It's like a prediction for the future anyway. It's just a preempting of the
Oh, welcome in, one and all. Obviously, it's another week of football-based nonsense from the CookieCast podcast network. You've heard the voices of Mr. Woodmansey and Mr. Moore. That just leaves Mr. Cook. How are you, sir?
Oh, you know me, sir. As long as I'm here doing a podcast, it must be a good day.
As long as he's got his Watford hoodie on, he'll be absolutely fine. So another week, and we're 10 days or so into the January transfer window. And as it stands, of all of our teams, surprising enough, Nottingham Forest are the only team to have not done some business. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So,
I presume there's two things are at kind of thingy. Two or three things are at play. Apparently, Nuno wants to reduce the size of the squad, which apparently, including the loan players that are out, is 41. We also have 4 goalkeepers, all of which are shit. As to be discussed in the Blackpool roundup. And so there's that. One player that they thought they'd pretty much got over the line, Nino, from Fluminense, has gone to Zenit St. Petersburg because they offered him a shit ton of money, apparently. He likes his Russian oil baron money as opposed to his Greek, who knows what your guy at Forest makes his money out of. And so there's that one, and then the last one, last but not least, is he's under my feet, I've trod on back. Is the fact that obviously we'll probably discuss it in next week's podcast. The threat of financial fair play looming over Forest. So I presume there's a level of careful with the spending. I mean, it feels a little bit like shutting the door after the horse has bolted. But, I think there's a level of trying to be careful about what they buy and just buying what they need as opposed to everything.
Paul's decided to talk to himself just for a second there, ladies and gentlemen, by committing the immortal COVID sin.
Oh, sorry.
I
did a cough and didn't want to put it on record, so apologies.
You actually did cough for a minute as well.
Yes. So that's no incomings at Nottingham Forest yet, but watch this space. There have been some incomings at Hull City, though. Mr. Woodmansey. Obviously, we covered Mr. Sharp, but I believe he's been joined by another man
So it was announced ahead of the podcast recording for a change, which is unheard of in this day and age, that Hull City are delighted to confirm the signing of attacking midfielder Fabio Carvalho on loan from Premier League side Liverpool. The skillful 21-year-old has championship promotion winning experience and has played in the Premier League, Bundesliga and Champions League, and he's joining the Tigers for the rest of the 23-24 campaign. So his time promotion winning championship football was when he was on loan at Fulham, and he's played with Jean-Michel Seri in his time there. So the club did a horrendous reveal video today of Hey Seri, and then instead of it being the Apple-based robot lady, it was Jean-Michel Seri in his thick French accent trying to explain how nice Hull was, which is difficult enough in an English accent in many ways. But yeah, so it's apparently fought off competition from Southampton and Leeds. So I mean, one was probably more appealing than the other. But yeah, I think it's a good sign. He's obviously wanted to come and play some football. The only bit that concerns me is that he was out on loan somewhere else for the first half of the season, somewhere on the continent, and I can't remember whether that was for the life of me now. But obviously that didn't work out so well. So now he's coming back to England to ply his trade for the rest of the season. But hopefully we'll get a glimpse of him Friday night, because he's the signing's been done in time as far as I'm aware. So with Seri and Traore going off to the Africa Cup of Nations, then it's probably great timing for us to pick up a midfielder that can slot straight in.
Very much agreed. I think I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't know if it was RB Leipzig, maybe.
That's it. Yeah, it is.
That he's been on loan at.
Yeah.
Like you said, the last time he was in this division with Fulham, he was scoring fairly regularly. Looked pretty handy. So I think it's a decent acquisition, and obviously it gives them more options in that sort of final third of the pitch. Maybe dropping a little bit deeper into the midfield as well. So that's the ins at Hull. There are 2 ins officially so far at Middlesbrough. The first of which was completed on the 5th of January, when the club completed the signing of attacking midfielder Finn Azaz from Aston Villa. Now that name might be slightly familiar to some of you from the podcast, as he was known earlier in the season for having scored against the Borough whilst playing for Plymouth Argyle. So this is according to the article on the Middlesbrough website. He spent the last 18 months on loan at Plymouth from Aston Villa, in which he made 67 appearances, scoring 15 goals. So not a terrible return from an attacking midfielder, one just about in every 4 games. Obviously fits the criteria of being a fairly young player to sort of fit in with the ethos of the additions that the club has been bringing in for the last couple of transfer windows. They're looking more towards buying younger players and developing them within the club. So he definitely fits that sort of category, but obviously has got experience of playing in the division. So an exciting addition to look forward to. The second edition was literally completed earlier on today. Not one I'm particularly thrilled with, given the club that he's joined from. But they've announced the signing on loan until the end of the season of Leeds United right back Luke Ayling. Has always come across as a bit of a Marmite sort of player, a bit one of those guys who kind of gets under your skin, maybe a little bit irritating. But I imagine if he plays for your team, probably one of those guys who looks like he always gives 110%. He's always putting himself into challenges and things like that. I mean, if we go back to earlier in the season, I wasn't entirely happy that they'd signed Sam Greenwood on loan from Leeds, and he's turned out to be a semi-decent arrival. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It's a position that Borough are certainly lacking in at the moment, as right-back slot's been a bit cursed this season, as 2 or 3 of the players that have played there have either gone down with long-term or significant injuries that have kept them out for a large period of time. So it is a player that comes into the squad in a position that's a bit short on depth. So I imagine that he'll potentially go straight into the squad. Whether or not he'll start the game at the weekend against Millwall, I'm not entirely sure, just because I don't think he's had much game time for Leeds over the last couple of weeks. Like I say, it fills a need, so it should really be looked at as a positive addition. But only time will tell. And obviously he won't be eligible to play Leeds later in the season, as was in the same boat as Sam Greenwood. That's your transfer roundup sorted for what is effectively week 2 of the January transfer window. So we'll dive back into last week's slate of games, and the week started with Mr. Cook's new team of Rotherham United. And sadly for Mr. Cook, he didn't even have time to peruse the website to look at which particular player's name he wanted to add to his tattoo list down the spaces on his... I was going to say space on his arms, but maybe space on your arms is this, what, maybe a rib cage or something like that section that's probably free at this particular time.
I'm doing the right rib cage at the moment.
Excellent.
As each one gets added, the last one gets crossed out, which is the painful
Of course,
part.
obviously, we'll try and think of where you can put Hugh Gill in, and obviously, score through Emnes, as obviously he was your first love, and no one can ever replace old Marvin. But
funnily enough, the pictures from that game popped up the other day.
Well, it is that time of year.
It is that time of year.
Basically, the first week in January was the yearly pilgrimage to the river dance. But sadly, since the prices are no longer a tenner, we don't do that anymore. Yes, so Fulham were the opposition for Rotherham United in the 3rd round of the FA Cup, and as we said, sadly, Mr. Cook has not even been able to get a proper feel for South Yorkshire, as Rotherham were beaten 1-0 by a Bobby Deckard over Reed. I wouldn't say wonder strike, but it was certainly a lovely finish. A little bit of dilly-dallying on the ball from the Rotherham defenders as they were trying to play out from the back. The ball made its way out to Deckard over Reed, and he's absolutely smashed it in the top left-hand corner. It sounded like up until that point that Rotherham had kind of weathered the storm, so to speak, and managed to get themselves through the game. But that little lapse of concentration has cost them not only a place in the 4th round, but obviously the support of Mr. Andrew Cook. Predictions-wise, Andy doesn't even get the consolation of getting any points, as he had a 1-0 Rotherham United win with ease to score the goal. So sadly, no points for Mr. Cook. Myself, Stu and Matt had all gone for 3-0 wins. Myself, we'd all gone for wins. Matt had gone for a 4-1. Sadly, had not picked Deckard over Reed for the goal. Myself and Stu, as we covered on last week's podcast, had gone for 3-0s with exactly the same 3 goal scorers of Nunes, Wilson and Pereira. No goal scorer points, just the point for the win for myself, Stuart and Matt. So we're all on 1, Andy yet to score. The next game was Hull City versus Birmingham City, and I believe you were in attendance for this, Mr. Woodmansey.
Yep, we were there, and it was pretty dire. The 7 changes for both sides kind of sorted the fact that there was not a real flow to it early doors. Saw Rosinia try out some of his extended squad, get some minutes into a returning Ryan Alsop in goal as well. Despite all the changes, though, it was definitely clear that they're all drilled just the same. They've been listening in training, so we're going to play out from the back because that's what we do. But yeah, some of the players that came in, didn't exactly cover themselves in glory, and I'm really sorry to say this, particularly to Andy. The main offender for me was Syed Manesh. He was terrible. He lost his man for the goal and allowed a cross in from Drame, to the old grandad up front, Jukovic. Routine header from the penalty spot. Keeper couldn't do anything about it, and that was on 18 minutes. Hull tried a bit harder in the second half, but it's because we're short of a left back at the moment. Rossini's having to play this system whereby we kind of play three at the back, except for then when we're in defence, and then Slater drops in, and it doesn't always work. It depends where the ball gets given away, if he's got time to drop back in or not, and if anything, it's just highlighting the need still. And I know I keep banging that drum, but we definitely need a left back. But yeah, it got to the 87th minute, and Connolly had a shot parried straight into the path of Matty Jacob, who smashed in from 6 yards on his full home debut. So local lad getting the equaliser 3 minutes from time. Both sides did have other chances, but they weren't exactly like nailed on. It was the game was not amazing. The positives, I guess, if anything, was that the performances of Smith, Jacob, and Vaughan, and the first appearance for Billy Sharp on 59 minutes. He got on, and whilst he didn't really get too much service, he had a couple of touches which set up a couple of chances. One particularly for Harry Vaughan, which possibly should have been put away. But yeah, negatives, like I said, the left back thing, Syed Manesh. And unfortunately, also Jason Lakilo. He quite often makes an appearance as a substitute during the league. Got to start the game. To say that Birmingham had him worked out after his first run was an understatement, because even though it didn't work then, he proceeded to try the exact same goddamn thing for the next however many minutes it was until he got taken off in the second half. Hopefully he's learned a new trick in training this week and may be able to use both of them next time he plays. Since the game finished 1-1, it does go to a replay. The carrot, if that's the right word, is a trip to Leicester away, which nobody really wants. Before the game started, I just wanted a result, not a draw, just a win or a loss. Let's just get it put to bed, and unfortunately that didn't work out for me. But yeah, they also had no manager at the time, and since that game, Tony Mowbray has taken over at Birmingham, following the departure of one Mr. Wayne Rooney. So we've also then potentially got the new manager bounce to come into effect for the next time that we play them. So we shall see. But for now, 1-1.
Yes, not the best. From a predictions perspective, neither of us had Jacob or Jukovic in our predictions, so no correct goal scorer points. Myself, Stuart and Andy had 1-0 wins for Hull. I had a 2-1 win for Hull, but Matt had a 1-1 draw, so bags himself 2 points on that one. The next game we're going to go to is Middlesbrough versus Aston Villa, which was live on TV, and I believe most of us watched. So we might be able to give you a little bit more of a rundown of that one. But we are just going to step away momentarily, take a quick break, and we'll come back to you with some in-depth Middlesbrough versus Aston Villa news. Don't go anywhere. We're right back.
Recording in progress.
Ah, yes, indeed. Thank you very much. This is Zoom Lady. Welcome back in. Obviously, you join us, Mr. Woodmansey, dealing with his green screen, apparently. Oh, there he goes again.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry, is the...
Very nice. Yes, so, as we said before the break, our next game was Middlesbrough versus Aston Villa, which was the BBC One Saturday evening offering. And, like I said before, I believe the majority of us may have tuned in for... I'd say the majority or large portions of this game. I don't know about you boys. I think we said it in the sort of the group chat. I don't think Borough disgraced themselves in this one at all. I think they more than held their own against Villa. They were clearly the side that was under the cosh more than the other. I think Villa definitely were the team that set the tempo, and you could sort of tell that they were the better of the two sides. But I don't think at any point Borough were outgunned or anything like that. A couple of chances here and there that could have been taken. Nothing I'd say clear cut for either team. The Middlesbrough goalkeeper played somewhat of a blinder. Some good saves from some pretty clear cut chances. And it looked like it was going to...
that your team's had a bit of a go-in when the keeper gets awarded man of the match as well.
Yeah, that is true. It looked almost as if it was going to peter out to a 0-0 draw until I believe it was about the 88th minute.
Yeah.
Villa got a corner, worked it around, and obviously the routine that had come off the training ground. The ball managed to make its way out to the edge of the box where Matty Cash had a shot. It's officially gone down as a Matty Cash goal, but in no fucking way am I giving that goal to Matty Cash. They can claim the strike was on target as much as they fucking well please. That will go down in the record books of the Cookie Cast podcast fucking network as an Emmanuel Latte-Lath very unfortunate own goal. Matty Cash had the strike. It hit Emmanuel Latte-Lath on the back of the legs.
Span cheek from what they replayed it, wasn't it?
Took
literally went in off his ass.
Well, yeah, took like span off the left, took a huge bounce off the turf and turned real sharp, and literally crept into the side of the post where the keeper Tom Glover just literally could not get to. One of those goals where I said it in the group chat. 99 times out of 100, that hits the turf and spins wide of the post, and all they get is another corner. So unfortunate that it just happens that this was the time that it takes that wicked turn.
Phil Tufnell didn't get that much spin out of a pitch.
Exactly. For those of you who have long memories, it turned almost akin to the ball of the century that Shane Warne sent down to. Was it Mike Gatty?
Yes. Either Gattin or Graham Gooch, wasn't it? Right. Yeah. And for those of you that are too young to know who Shane Warne or Mike Gatting was, Google it. The turn that he got on that ball was unbelievable, to say the least. But yeah, just really unfortunate. You can maybe make the argument that Villa had probably done enough during the course of the game to win, but just a bit unfortunate. It was annoying because I think it was the point where Villa had kind of run out of ideas at that point. Yeah. I think it was literally like you said, the game was petering out. Villa had kind of tried everything and was just kind of like, this? We'll try this.
Yeah.
That worked, did it?
In the second half.
With that thing with the deflected goals, that is another. It's like on the list of gripes that I have, it's on the list. But if the ball significantly changes direction, whether it's on target or not, that is an own goal. Like if it hits someone on the way through and kind of slightly goes, then yeah, give them a goal because it was going that way. But this one was, he shot towards the right-hand side of the goal, or his right, goalkeeper's left, and it went in the other side. That is not his shot anymore.
Exactly. Matt, on the similar vein, I would say if it clips someone as it goes past them, that is fine. That's not deflecting the ball. That's not taking it on a completely different trajectory to the one that the striker sent the ball on. Ones like that, where it's literally completely changed the physics of the spin on the ball, cannot go down as the guy who struck its goal. Borough in the second half had brought Emmanuel Latte-Lathon for Josh Coburn up front, and I believe Stu actually raised this point in our group chat that Villa just couldn't handle him in the portion of the second half. They just never really got to grips with his pace and his movement. And I think if he'd have been a little bit fitter, obviously he's just come back from a bit of a time off with injury. If he'd have been in a position where he could have played maybe an hour, he might have started the game, and they might have had that issue from the start of the game. But yeah, just unfortunately, it was him that the ball deflected off really for the winner. But like I said, no shame on the Borough for the performance. And in a similar vein to what Stuart was saying with the Hull City game, at least it wasn't a draw. So they now know that they're out of the FA Cup. They can concentrate on the game that we're going to discuss at the end, and they can go back to concentrating on the league form.
On the note of at least it wasn't a draw, from my perspective, I obviously did the bets for the win, lose or draw, and had all three teams drawn, it would have been 50 quid. So Matt, how did you go?
Why can't Emmanuel Latte-Lathon have just a very slightly less chunky behind? Predictions wise, as he usually is, Mr. Cook was the most optimistic and had gone for a 1-0 Middlesbrough win. Ironically enough, with Latte-Lath to score the goal. So technically...
So I get points, yeah? Points.
Technically, if we're going to go by the letter of the law, I should probably deduct your points. But I won't, obviously. Stuart gone for a 1-1 draw with Rodgers and Duran to score. On a side note, Duran, I know he's only a young lad, but I think he needs more game time. As I can't remember him doing much in the game other than I believe he missed a fairly decent chance. Although I did have a bet on in this game for him to have 3+ shots on target, and the shot on target that won me my bet was basically a B-roller back to the goalkeeper. So keep it up, John. You'll do for me, son. Myself and Matt had gone for 3-1 Aston Villa wins. So get ourselves a point for the result. Obviously, none of us had gone for an own goal to be the correct goal scorer, and none of us had selected Cash to score. Otherwise, I would have given out some points. So that's a point for myself, a point for Matt. So far, out after 3 games, Andy's still yet to score, sadly. Stu on 1 point from 3 games. I'm on 2 points from 3 games. Matt on 4 points from 3 games. And speaking of Mr. Moore, we go to his boys next, as it is Nottingham Forest taking on Blackpool. Now, sadly, this one wasn't available on terrestrial television, I believe. So, did you have to catch this one in the highlights package on Match of the Day?
Yes, yeah. I think, yeah. The BBC were doing the similar kind of thing that Sky do as well, show you goals as they go in, because obviously there's no legal requirement, as opposed to the 3 o'clock ones where you can't show it. So as the goals were going in, they were kind of so. But yeah, I ended up catching it on the BBC website afterwards. So, kind of strangely enough, as seems to be the case, Forest didn't learn their lesson after getting beat 4-1 at Bloomfield Road last season. We turned up for this game thinking once again that it would be easy. I think this is the kind of issue that's happened with Forest this year, is that they've signed players that are, in theory, better than what we had before, but aren't quite as good as they think. So I think it was a bit of a sluggish start. I mean, what I would say is it was a complete sellout at the City Ground on Saturday, which is like quite a bit surprising. I think there was a lot of families there that can't get tickets for Premier League games that have gone to see Forest. So, yeah, I think Forest started slowly. Blackpool started quite well, pretty even early on. Then Blackpool got across into the box. Montiel headed it gently in the air across the box, to which Lawrence Gabriel, which is hyphenated, swooped in and scored a diving header. Should have realised, old boy rule. He was at Forest. He left not so long ago and threw a few grenades on the way out as well, if memory serves me right, and then decided not to celebrate scoring at the weekend. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, mate. Don't throw pelts on the way out the door.
Celebrating. Yeah, I thought that was a bit okay.
Don't throw pelters on the way out, but then don't celebrate because you finally scored. 5 minutes later, Blackburn doubled their lead. Goodness knows what happened. Ball down the right. Somehow Worrell didn't cut out the cross. The goalkeeper dived for a ball that was not even vaguely close to him. And Morgan was at the back post to stick it in the back of the net. 2-0. Yeah, I mean, that was absolutely flummoxing the goalkeeper in that one. But I think apparently this is the first time in 54 attempts of Forest going 2-0 down, they finally managed to pull it back and get a result. So it started late on in the first half. Montiel kind of making up for his error, crossed the ball in, and Dominguez rising, kind of halfway, like mid, about penalty spot, headed it into the back of the net. Quite a nice finish. And then not long into the second half, Gibbs White got the ball from Callum Hudson-Odoi, and properly, when someone says, "Oh, that's the top corner," that proper top corner finish, quite nice. Watching the highlights, Forest had an unbelievable amount of chances to win this game. It's shocking that they didn't. The finishing was really, really poor. But yeah, 2-2 draw, similar kind of thing to Stu. The worst result we possibly could have got would have taken, being knocked out would have been disappointing, particularly with the strength of the team that was played. But at least it would have meant that Nuno would have had another couple of weeks to take the players away to kind of sort around. Instead, it's preparing for an FA Cup replay a week on Wednesday, and then that's 3 days before we play Brentford at Brentford. So, wonderful. Congratulations, lads. You cost yourself a holiday, and you cost yourself some decent time on the training pitch. So, yeah, good to show fight. Disappointing that we got ourselves in that position in the first place.
But, as an upside, did you get a night in Blackpool?
I mean, and that's worth it. More Blackpool. I will not have any Blackpool slander on this podcast.
Hey, I've got nothing against Blackpool. In fact, I was roughly in that vicinity within the last sort of 6 weeks. Granted, it was only for a day, and ideally I wasn't going to be there, but that's a story for another time.
I love the ideally part of that.
And it's a story for another time. Story time with Paul. The day I nearly went to Blackpool by accident.
He was busy rigging it so that it looked like Blackpool Tower was on fire.
Was it?
No, that was just the perspective of the photograph and his hair colour. That's two very different things.
Lovely stuff. Anyway, predictions-wise on the podcast, myself, Stu and Matt had gone for varying degrees of Forest win. Myself and Stu had gone 2-0. Matt had gone 2-1. Sadly, none of us had picked Dominguez, Gibbs White, Lawrence Gabriel or Morgan in those goal scorers. Andy had picked Wood and Rhodes to score in a 1-1 draw. So he gets himself a point for the fact that it was a draw. Which means that going into the last game of the week, I don't know if we've ever had this on the podcast, no one has got a correct goal scorer in any of the games we've picked. So the last chance we have is in the first leg of the semi-final of the League Cup between Middlesbrough and Chelsea. So obviously Middlesbrough went into this off the back of the loss against Aston Villa. Made a few changes to the squad. At this point, Finn Azaz was in, but was ineligible, and he had played in the Cup earlier in the season for Plymouth, so it was Cup tied. Morgan Rogers, I didn't realise going into the game, was suspended, as he had been booked twice in the earlier rounds, so was unable to play. And Sam Greenwood was also ineligible, as I believe he either played in the early rounds for Leeds or Leeds had just asked that he not be eligible in the game. So they were a bit down for the bare bones. Emmanuel Lattelaf came in for Josh Coburn up front and lasted a grand total of about 90 seconds as he had a run through when the ball was flicked through to him, and he latched onto the end of it and managed to get his shot away. But in what probably, had VAR been in sort of attendance at the game, potentially could have been looked at as a potential penalty shout, as Axel Nassasi came across with a challenge and didn't really get any of the ball, but got plenty of Lattelaf's ankle, I noticed. Lattelaf tried to carry on, but had to go off after 3 minutes with an injury. Not sure at this particular point how long he's going to be out for, but it didn't look great, and I would imagine he probably won't be in for the next couple of games.
It's disappointing that he just come back as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. He had that positive showing against Villa. We were hoping he'd kind of kick on and look good for the rest of the season, but sadly, not to be. The misfortune continued on the 18th minute when chasing the ball down the Chelsea right-hand side, Alex Bangura, the left-back, pulled up lame after it looked like he'd taken a bit of a knock to his hamstring. I don't know if he did get a sort of a knee in the hamstring or anything like that, but it's another one where it certainly didn't look good. Forced Borough into the second change in the first 20 minutes and a bit of a reshuffle. But they didn't let it affect them. They just kept playing the way that set up to play. Weathered a bit of a storm. Probably should have gone 1-0 down when Cole Palmer had the ball given back to him by Johnny Howson, inexplicably in the centre of the park, and he managed to put his shot wide from the edge of the box when it probably was easier to score. And just shortly after that Cole Palmer effort, a lovely little clipped ball from Dan Barlasser down the right-hand side channel for Isaiah Jones to run to. He took the ball past the defender, cut the ball back through the legs of Levi Colwill, for the on-rushing Hayden Hackney to just open his foot up and left foot, side foot past the goalkeeper for the opening goal of the game. And few scenes of absolute jubilation on Teesside. Stayed that way until half-time. And then the second half started and Cole Palmer again with another gilt-edged chance. There was a shot from Enzo Fernandez that the goalkeeper spilled. Cole Palmer was literally there on the scene to get the ball, and he can't have been any more than 4 yards out from the goal, and so he managed to put it over the top. Not his finest moment by any means. Can't remember any real other chances that where Chelsea worked the goalkeeper. There was a couple of efforts. Raheem Sterling managed to shoot over from the edge of the box. I did see a stat that was thrown up during the game that he apparently scored in the first semi-final he ever took part in and hasn't scored in 20 since. And I thought, well, that's the kiss of death if I've ever seen one.
I saw that and thought the exact same. I was like, no, things like that.
It didn't come to fruition, however, and not only that, none of the Chelsea players managed to find the net. And Middlesbrough managed to run out with a very handy 1-0 win to take into the second leg at Stamford Bridge in 2 weeks' time. For those that might have watched it, I felt it was another game where Borough didn't embarrass themselves. Yes, they were very much under the cosh. I think the possession stats said that Borough had about 28% possession, Chelsea 72%, but they did exactly what they needed to do. They soaked up the pressure, hit them sort of on the counter-attack, and it paid dividends. Can't argue with that. Predictions-wise, both Matt and Stu had gone for Chelsea wins. Matt had gone for 2-1. Had picked Greenwood, as at the time, like we said, was unaware that he wasn't eligible for the game. Sterling and Broja to score. Sadly, no points there. Stuart had gone for 3-1. Jones to score for the Borough. 2 for Jackson and 1 for Madueke. I'd gone for a 1-1 draw with Crooks and Broja to score. Captain Optimistic, though, had gone for a 2-1 Middlesbrough win. Rodgers and Laugh to score for the Borough. Sterling to score for Chelsea. So, sadly, we managed to complete the week with no correct goal scorers, but Andy does get a point for the result. So that means that we end the result with Stu, 1 point from the 5 games. Myself and Mr. Cook, 2 points from the 5 games. Matt takes the week with a whopping 4 points from the 5 games. Well done to you, sir. Week 24 then brings with it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in total. And we start the week with Hull City versus Norwich City. As Mr. Woodmansey said earlier on, this is a Friday night fixture, so you will be in attendance. Is it a Sky Sports fixture?
Not this week, as far as I'm aware, because I believe we have another Friday night fixture the following week up at the Stadium of Light, and that is on TV.
Yes. Oh no, Sky Sports Football.
Is it?
It is. It would appear to be the live offering.
Oh, so we're on 2 weeks running. Wow.
Oh.
They clearly know where to go. They clearly know where to go.
Seasons ago, smart comments were made about, Forest seems to be the new Leeds being on telly all the time. Hull seem to be the new Leeds being on telly the whole time.
I noticed when the Carvalho signing was announced, it was on the transfer centre bit of Sky Sports News, and the guy that was talking was like, they might be the ones to watch in the Champions. I was like, you shut your mouth, Sunshine, because let's just get on with it quietly and we'll see what happens, eh? Let's not be jinxing that, but if they're going to stick us on TV more, then we definitely won't win, because we'd never do particularly well on TV, usually.
Well, let's hope that's not the case. So, Mr. Woodmansey's team, he will therefore go last. I'll jump in here. I've gone for a 2-1 Hull win. Goals for 2 of the new boys, Sharp and Carvalho to score. I've gone for Onel Hernandez to get the goal for Norwich. Andy, what have you got for Norwich? Hull versus Norwich.
I have a 1-0 Hull win with Connolly to score.
Matthew?
I should have checked this before. I've gone for a Hull 2-1 win with Carvalho and Twine to score for Hull and Rowe to score for Norwich.
Stuart?
Okay, so this was the first game of the season for us away, and Hull took a 1-0 lead early doors and then managed to screw it all up. I wouldn't be surprised to see the exact same thing happen, but I have slightly more optimistically gone for a 1-1 draw, despite the fact that Hull are currently even money to win the game, which is just... I don't get that at all. But I've gone for Billy Sharp to get off the mark for his new club, and Núñez.
Very, very nice. Our next game sees, once again, Mr. Andrew Cook's new side, Fulham, taking on Chelsea. This is a battle of West London, I believe. Probably a battle to see who can charge the most for its mediocre football. As it's Mr. Cook's team, he will go last. Stu, what have you got for Chelsea versus Fulham?
Spotting a little bit of a theme with my predictions already. I have gone for a 1-1 draw. I've got Palmer to finally get out of whatever rut that he was in against Borough to score for Chelsea, and Iwobi for Fulham.
Woes. Matt?
I've completely missed this one off the predictions list. So I've not. Oh crap!
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give mine, and that'll give you a little time to sort of come up with something. In agreement with Mr. Woodmansey, I've also gone for a 1-1 draw. However, I've gone for Jackson to score for Chelsea, and old boy rule in effect. I've gone for Willian to notch for Fulham.
Right. Okay, I'll go Chelsea 2-1 win.
Yeah.
Fernandes.
Yeah.
And Sterling.
Yes.
And Old Boy Rules William to score.
Mr. Cook, how do you see your new boys getting on in their biggest game of the season?
I see them taking a win, 1-0.
Goal scorer?
I also have Iwobi to score.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Is he not? Hang on a second. Is he not at the African Cup of Nations?
Think about that.
Yeah, you might need some new goals. You might need some new goal scorers, fellas.
Switch man out for Pereira then.
Would you like some time, Mr. Cook?
1 second, because I've got the team here.
If it helps, the guy who mainly plays up top from is called Raúl Jiménez.
That was the person who comes up first and was going to be my pick. So yes, I'll have a slice of that, please. Old Raúl.
Can I ask on the back of it, if Chelsea do win, is there any way that we could afford the fee to play the stupid music they play before their home games for Andy next week? I see the memes come up every time, and every time I know exactly what it's going to be, and I don't care which idiot it is that's dancing. I love the fact that it says Chelsea fans before another 90 minutes of misery.
We'll see what we can do. We'll get in touch with the props department, and we'll see if we can make some magic happen. Our next game sees my lot, Middlesbrough, travelling to Millwall. As Stuart said, this is the reverse fixtures from the opening weekend of the season, in which Middlesbrough ran out with a comfortable 1-0 defeat. Obviously, it's my voice, so I will go last. Andy, what have you got for Millwall versus the Borough?
I've got a 1-2.
Ooh.
I've got
Your goal scorers.
Podcast favourite Watmore to score for Millwall. And Rogers and Silvera.
Silvera is at the Asian Cup. Sadly.
I knew that something was going to go wrong somewhere. Damn it. Now I've got to go and find the thing, and I've got to look at the thing, and I've got to find the thing. Oh, here we go. Oh, gone too far. Too far. Is Force playing these days?
Still, apparently back in training this week, but probably won't be fitting up to start at the weekend.
Josh Coburn.
I like it. He didn't look very good in the 2 games he's played this week, but what better way to bounce back than by notching against Millwall? Stu?
Unfortunately for you, Paul, I have got Millwall to repeat the 1-0 victory. What more to score? I just think that Borough are now just going to have had their heads turned a little by that result midweek. Have one eye on maybe going at that. So I can't. I don't know. I don't think they'll be really that bothered about the next league game or so until that League Cup game comes around.
Matthew?
I've gone for a 2-1 Borough win. Fleming for Millwall and Hackney and Jones for Borough.
So, I too have gone for a 2-1 win, but for Millwall. I think I agree with Stuart. I think this could be a very much after the Lord Mayor's show. The high of the win against Chelsea on Tuesday has probably taken quite a lot out of the players. And let's be honest, Millwall, never really that nice a place to go. I imagine that the crowd will be up for it as well. So I've got, like I said, I've gone for a 2-1 Millwall win. I've gone for Watmore and Fleming for Millwall. Jones to get the goal for the Borough. 2 games left, and it is the replays of the FA Cup tie. So Birmingham versus Hull and Blackpool versus Nottingham Forest. We are just going to step away momentarily just to refresh, and then we'll come back to you with those two games, and then we'll obviously wrap up with the week's business. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Recording in progress.
Welcome on back in. Yes, so as we said, 2 games left, and it is the respective replays of the third round FA Cup ties, starting with Birmingham City versus Hull City. Obviously, Mr. Woodmansey's team, he will therefore go last. Let's go to Andy for his pick in Birmingham versus Hull.
0-1. Hull to win with Sharp to score the goal.
I like it. I've gone for a similar 2-1 win. I've gone for Tufan and Connolly to score for Hull, and I've gone for Jutkovic to score for Birmingham. I believe this will be the 3rd or possibly even 4th time that Mr. Jutkovic will be under the employ of Tony Mowbray, as he had him at both Coventry and the Borough. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Matt?
I've unfortunately gone the other way. I've gone for a Birmingham 2-1 win. It's the first home game under Mowbray unless they're playing this weekend. So I've gone Jukovic, or whatever the thing, and Bielik. I've gone for Connolly to score for Hull. That's the little thing.
Stu, how do you see this one going?
Based on what I saw at the weekend, I'm going to plumb for another 1-1 draw, and then we'll probably lose on penalties or extra time. But I'm going to go for Dembele, who actually I didn't mention before, did hit the bar in the game at Hull. I'm not sure if it was more on accident than actual effort, but still, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And then, because I thought he had a good game, I think he'll probably play again. Vaughan for Hull.
Now, I believe you had him in the previous game, and he did come on to that.
He's got to score at some point, even though he... Oh, by the way, I was ragging him for being the shortest player that potentially would be on the pitch. Can't remember the guy's name for the life of me, but the number 11 for Birmingham, oh my God, I thought he'd walk straight out of the under-15s. It's I didn't realise that they sold their home kit in jockey sizes.
I'm going to have to find out who it is. Number 11, you said?
Yeah.
Koji Miyoshi.
He was a very, 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 very short man.
Well, basically, for those of you not in the know, all you need to know now is basically get all of your money on Miyoshi to score first. So.
With a bullet header as well, probably.
Yes. Out leaping all and sundry in attendance to score the only goal of the game with his napper. And our final game of the week is the replay of Blackpool versus Nottingham Forest. Matt looks confused at this, as I'm assuming he has another game.
I've got it wrong then. I wasn't sure if Chelsea Borough's the week after, is it?
Yes. No Chelsea Borough game until the 21st.
I think my fault. I've got to see. So I've done one game that's not going this week and completely forgot another game that was going this week. He's predicting games that don't even exist. Yeah! It exists, just not this week.
Next. Blackpool versus Forest. Obviously, Mr. Moore will give his predictions last. I'll start us off. I've gone for a 3-1 Nottingham Forest win. I've gone for Rhodes to score for Blackpool. If he's still there, of course. With him being on loan, he might get recalled. I think I said that before the recording last week, and it didn't happen.
But just because it's Jordan Rhodes, he'll probably have another club that he's played for by the end of this.
I think he did play on Sunday.
Yeah, he started up top.
Yeah.
For the Forest goals, I've gone for a bit of a double-barreled bonanza. I've gone for Gibbs, White, Hudson-Odoi, and I don't know if I've got another one in the squad, so I should have to go for Danilo. But he's Brazilian, so he's probably got about 8 names.
Yeah.
Stu, what have you got for Blackpool versus Forest?
I have got a Forest 2-1 win. I've got Hamilton for Blackpool, and then Hudson-Odoi for Forest, and a captain's goal for Yates.
Andrew?
0-2.
Goal scorers?
I think we all know that I've got Wood at this point in time, and Hudson-Odoi.
Hudson-Odoi, clearly a favourite this evening. Go on then, Matt. How do you see this one playing out for the boys?
Well, I'm hoping that there's been like a bit. I don't know if Nuno does rollickins, but I hope there's been like a bit of a fire lit up their ass because it's not on. It was not on. You know, they've kind of hopefully they've gone away and perhaps had a little break, and people have gone. You know, think, oh, bugger, we'll get this sorted out. So I've gone for a 3-1 Forest win. I hopefully just go in, get the business done, out, see the lights on the way out. Rhodes to score for Blackpool because I think they will concede a goal. I've also got Hudson-Odoi.
Hey.
I've got Yates as well. And I would like sneak a little one in for Nico Williams, I think.
Well, according to the Adrenaline XL card collection this year, don't forget he is world class. So
world class. And English, as Amazon TV put on for the Newcastle game.
I'm sure that went down delightfully in the valley.
Oh God! Apparently they had a dicky fit on Twitter. I mean, it's just got there, so you know they're kind of just working out how to use it.
I don't think you'll find he is English actually. Classic Welsh people. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is all of your games done for the week. But sadly, it seems to be that sort of time where we have to go through the not quite as nice bits. And unfortunately, we've lost another stalwart of world football this week. Franz Beckenbauer the German Der Kaiser passed away on Sunday at the age of 78. I'll just go through a little bit of the BBC write-up for everything that they said. Beckenbauer won 4 league titles with Bayern and was the captain when the German Giants won the European Cup in 74, 75 and 76. He was also, obviously, the captain of Germany when they won the World Cup. He also played in the 1966 final. Der Kaiser, a contemporary friend and rival of England's 1966 World Cup winning duo Bobby Moore and Bobby Charlton, as well as Brazil's Pelé, was part of a golden group of world-class players, including the great Netherlands star Johan Cruyff, who bestrode the game in the 1960s and 70s. Beckenbauer captained West Germany to World Cup victory in his home country in 1974 when the Netherlands were beaten in the final in Munich. Something else that's when they actually won, he then later managed Germany to a win in 1990, obviously overcoming England in the semi-final on penalties. And that win in 1990 made him one of only 3 men, along with Didier Deschamps of France and Brazil's Mario Zagallo, who I didn't actually realise had also died the week previous, to win the World Cup as players and managers. Mario Zagallo was 92 when he passed away last week. Beckenbauer, obviously, I never saw him play as he was way before my time. But just like sort of in my passing conversations with my dad and things like that, he always came across as a as a stellar player, and obviously was clearly very well thought of to be captain in his national side, and then obviously later on given the role as the national team manager. So definitely a legend of the game. Sadly gone too soon.
Yeah, I think it's like that's when we spoke about him kind of when we talked about Bobby Charlton as well passing away, and I think he kind of fulfilled that similar role as Bobby Charlton at Bayern Munich kind of thing. He's just one of those players that whenever you speak to people of a certain age, like I think I mentioned to you guys, my dad, he was my dad's favourite player, kind of thing. But kind of slightly, in the 60s, it was still kind of, certain things were still kind of fresh in the memory. So the fact that somebody was liked a German midfielder more than the English midfielders, it was kind of like, but my dad was like, he was really good. What do you want from me? Kind of thing. I think it's sad to say. But I think Alan McInally was on Sky Sports as well. He said when he played there, and he was like, on the days when you knew that Beckenbauer was in, it was just like the whole atmosphere of the club changed. And like there's on top of that, like there's just loads of people in as well. So obviously, Franz Beckenbauer's in today. It meant more people came into the club, more people were kind of about. So it's kind of a presence that I don't know if it's disappearing out of the game, but it seems to kind of you don't kind of realise it until they kind of go away.
Yeah, I've just read something else on the BBC article about it. That said that obviously they lost the final in 1966 to England, as obviously everyone's aware of. But they actually played him again in the following tournament in 1970, in the quarterfinals, and it's almost become a bit of like folklore that in the game, Beckenbauer and Bobby Charlton were basically sort of almost kind of marking each other out of the game, and then England were 2-0 up in the game, and I think Ramsey wanted to take Charlton off to rest him because obviously the competition was in Mexico, and obviously the heat was just unbearable, and I think he wanted to take him off to rest him for the semi-final, and then obviously later on into the tournament, and Charlton going off obviously allowed Beckenbauer to have the shackles taken off him because he didn't have to worry about man marking Bobby Charlton anymore. And it's that substitution led to him sort of taking the game by the scruff of the neck, then getting Germany back into the game, and they obviously went on to win 3-2. They lost in the semi-final against Italy, but I think that's one of those games that I know that I've sort of heard about in the past where it was it sort of changed the perspective of him from an English point of view, in that that game made people in England sort of sit up and realise, wow, he is probably one of the best players of his generation and stuff like that. But yeah, sad that he's passed away. As all these, and like I said, this is way before our generation, but these are the players that sort of paved the way for the players that are in our generation when we were growing up watching and things like that. So it's always sad when the pioneers pass away, and it's just another name that's lost, sadly. That's all I had to bring up. I don't know if you boys have got anything else you'd like to add at the end of the pod this week.
No.
Excellent. In that case, I'll thank you all for joining me once again to go through the ups and downs of our respective teams this week. Join us again next week where we'll go through the results of the games we've just discussed and bring to you some more predictions, one of which will, of course, be the second leg of the Chelsea-Middlesbrough semi-final. We'll have to wait and see if Borough can get the job done and stamp their ticket to Wembley for the final. Join us again in a week's time where we'll do that all for you. Until then, obviously, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you in about a week's time. Bye-bye.
So there we go. What do you think of that? Another one done. Another week of games gone. And another week of games to look forward to. Before you leave us, before you go off into the sunset, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button. That way you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.